What's up, fans? What's up, fans? What a show tonight. It is packed. We have so much juicy content, and that juicy content keeps coming. Did you know Xbox were considering buying Sega? Yeah, Sega, as recently revealed in a secret email. Not only that, they were planning to spend Sony out of business because they had so much cash. They were just going to buy up everything so they could win in the subscription wars. Plus loads of other juicy stuff. And we're going to be talking about that. So buckle up, people. It's time for the titles. Yokoso, arigato gozaimasu. Welcome to the Xbox Monday Night Chat. Make sure you get your Xbox reward there. I hope you're good. I hope you're well. We have a packed show tonight. I'm pulling out some special effects. We've got headlines so that we can talk about it because there's so much to talk about. And even though, what we're going to be talking about is the FTC versus Microsoft case, because out of that has come loads and loads of juicy content that we can talk about and discuss. And I want you to discuss it. So I've created headlines, ladies and gentlemen. I've created headlines which can be the sort of springboard for the discussion. There is so much of it. But it's not just the FTC Microsoft case that's been happening. There's other revelations that have been revealing, plus all your normal Xbox news. So there's loads of stuff to talk about, to fill the show. It's going to be a cracker. That's all I can say. So as ever, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Xbox Monday Night Chat. And you, ladies and gentlemen, will be playing the honourable part of chat. So get involved, get in the chat. Say hello, all of that. Let's get the housekeeping out the way as well while we're here, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, why don't you hit those likes? Yeah, because I like it and YouTube likes it, and it helps the algorithms in making sure that people like you, the bright, clever ones that come and watch me live, also find this show, ladies and gentlemen. And if you are new here, arigato gozaimasu, please hit the subscribe button. Toggle the notification bell, and that way you will massage my low self-esteem. Thank you very much. Anyway, as ever, let us know what games you've been playing and all of that. Put it in the chat and we'll talk about it. Before we get going, let's see who is in the front of the Glastonbury crowd, as it were, for my Xbox Glastonbury experience here. Who is in the mosh pit, early doors, as it were. We always like to say hello. Now, I noticed Suarez there is not mucking about. He wants to get in straight into the meat and potatoes of the discussions tonight. Yeah. Let's jump right in. Talk about Xbox might get keyboard and mouse support through GFN for cloud gaming on Game Pass. Well, that's quite interesting, isn't it, if you think about it? So at the moment, I wasn't going to talk about this, but you made me think about it, this very thing. And of course, yes, at the moment, the xCloud, you play games on an equivalent of basically an Xbox Series X server type thing in the sky. So of course, there's no keyboard and mouse support for that, because they're Xbox games, specifically Xbox console games, Xbox Series, they're being played on the Xbox Series X. However, as you point out there, through GFN, you will be getting access to the Xbox PC games. And therefore, in principle, you should be able to play with keyboard and mouse as you can on GeForce Now. So that's a very good point, actually. It's not new per se, because you can already play Xbox PC games with keyboard and mouse. You just can't play games that are on xCloud because they are effectively Xbox console games and not Xbox PC games. But the Xbox PC games will be playable via GFN, hence keyboard and mouse. Good point, Suarez. I like it. How Microsoft considered becoming a dedicated gaming platform. We will be discussing that. That is one of the bullet points. Good evening, Sednar. Gusky's in the house. Thank goodness. Yes. YouTube notifications. Oh my God. Hallelujah. Thank you for that. Yes. Arigato gozaimasu, the YouTube notifications. Jonas says Xbox wins and soon buys Activision Blizzard. Well, you know, these things are always hard to predict, but certainly the case is strong. And actually, you reminded me, a lawyer in the UK wrote a very considered piece from the perspective of a competition lawyer about how he feels that the UK CMA decision is a weak decision. So this isn't just sort of some journalist kind of stuff or an opinionated fanboy. This is a considered piece from a lawyer writing about the UK CMA decision to block the Microsoft Activision deal. And we will look at that as well. Ooh, so much. Neil in the house. Good to see you, Neil. Gandara. Exactly. There we go. But Gandara is just repeating what I was saying there. Exactly. But Suarez makes a good point. I'd never thought about it like that in a way. It is giving people who want to play Xbox games in the cloud an opportunity to play them on keyboard. So that's quite good. They is still in court. They are. But it is a day off today for some reason. Court is adjourned. So there was no court activity today, but there was some, The Verge got access to some documents, some emails, and have been sharing the content of that this evening. So we'll be looking at that because that just came in about 10 minutes. I hadn't even prepared it 10 minutes ago. And we'll look at that. That'll be one of the first things we look at. Wolf of Darkness, good to see you. Henriksen, good to see you. Good to see you there. I'd love it if Xbox bought Sega. Well, you never know. I think it's sort of the moment's past, but we will come to it. It was one of the major targets that Xbox had, and there is a list of them, including Bungie, and we'll come to that as well. So let's go indeed. Share. Exactly. I call my friends to attend this podcast. Thank you, Wolf of Darkness. That's what we want. We've got to share the love, ladies and gentlemen. Share the love. Cloudbusters has been... He's been doing what we should all be doing, which is playing games. Been playing Aliens Dark Descent. I know how to double team to psych ward as I'm suffering from stress. Oh my gosh. Is it true Xbox buys Sega? I don't think they will buy Sega, but it was one of the targets. It was one of the targets. Henriksen, you've got to learn. I'll get to you. I'll get to you, babe. I'll get to you. Just calm yourself. We get there. What do you think about YouTube playables? Yes, that's interesting development. I've not looked into it too deeply. It's not Stadia 2 by any accounts. What it seems to me like is I think my son was telling me that Discord now do games. So if you're talking to your mates or you're bored in Discord, he was saying, he started playing, him and his mate were playing poker, even though they've no idea how to play it. So Discord have a few kind of simple games that you can sort of play. So I think it's like that. It's sort of, what's the word? Sort of casual games. Of course, as many people said at the time about Stadia, it would have been perfect way of really pushing Stadia. And that was the dream, wasn't it? That you see a game on YouTube, on a YouTube game, or a streamer playing a YouTube game, and there's a button that you click and you can instantly play the game. And that was the sort of, that was the promise of Stadia, really. So, that probably would have helped a lot. Although we will be talking about Stadia in the context of the gaming industry and Microsoft versus FTC. There's some interesting things there. I am good tonight. Thank you, Henriksen. Good, good. Right. So first things first, ladies and gentlemen, as I did promise, let us crack onto this news about spending first. So Microsoft was ready to go, and this is a quote from Matt Booty. Microsoft was ready to, inverted commas now, ladies and gentlemen, to go spend Sony out of business to strengthen Xbox. Internal email shows Microsoft's early thinking on acquisitions to drive Xbox Game Pass growth. So it was all about content, yeah? And Microsoft knew that they were in a really good position. They could see that subscription models were potentially the future. You know, this genuinely, this Netflix of gaming, you know, the all-you-can-eat buffet kind of thing. Subscription was the way. And Microsoft felt they already have an advantage over Sony, but they needed to double down on that by acquiring content. And the way you acquire content, by the big studios and publishers. Microsoft's Xbox Game Studio chief, Matt Booty, was encouraging Xbox Chief Financial Officer, Tim Stewart, to spend big on acquiring game content in 2019 to set the company up to battle Sony in subscriptions. It's part of an email thread that's part of the FTC versus Microsoft hearing. And he goes on to say here, Microsoft are in a very unique position to be able to go spend Sony out of business. Big talk. Because ultimately Microsoft had a big cash. Big cash. They had big cash to spend. Even bigger than we've realized now. I mean, the money they're talking here is pittance, said Booty, referencing spending $2 billion or $3 billion in 2020 to avoid competitors getting ahead in content at a later date. Now, when he's talking about here, of course, he was talking about, not about Sony, he's talking about Google and Amazon, in particular, cloud gaming. He said, it is practically impossible for anyone to start a new video streaming service at scale at this point, said Booty, referencing competitors like Google and Amazon and Sony. Booty described content as a moat and that only Sony could really compete with Game Pass because they had the games. We've said it before, Amazon struggled to a certain degree, lack of games. And the big argument against Google and Stadia, lack of the games. Where was your Call of Duty? Where was your Fortnite? Fortnite, in fairness, is on Amazon now. But it lacked the games. Now, we knew, of course, that Stadia's big dreams at the beginning was to have its own studio, produce its own content. And at the time, in 2019, 2020, in games, Google is 3 to 4 years away. And we're going to come to this as well because Dov Zimring, we'll come to it anyway, in the Microsoft FTC court case was a witness. And he talks about specifically about the Stadia studios and ambitions of the Stadia studios and why they were shut down. Google is 3 to 4 years away from being able to have a studio set up and running. I love this one. Because this is what I felt at the time. Because remember there were two big games that Amazon spent like nearly $500 million on. And one of them they just killed in the end. It was a mix between a sort of Apex Legends meets Overwatch kind of, committee designed by committee failure. I forget what it was called now. Anyway, his quote here is damning. Amazon has shown no ability to execute on game content. Woo. Content is the one moat we have. So that's the one strength that they have. They've got loads and loads of content. Sony have got loads and loads of content. In terms of catalog that runs on current devices and compatibility to create new, Sony is really the only other player who could compete with Game Pass. And we have a 2-year and 10 million subs lead. And then the email is part of a thread discussing Xbox Game Pass. Rest of it's redacted. And it looks like at one point Microsoft was considering reversing the idea of day and date releases. That's the whole point. So they were going to do a bit like Sony do to a certain degree and not put their premium titles straight, back in the day, straight on their kind of subscription service, which is madness. You see with Netflix or Amazon, you put your big things day and date. You don't wait a period of time. And Booty wasn't happy about it. If we reverse course on day and date is a word we use in TV, for stuff that lands day and date, it's going to be very hard to convince folks that things like Mixer, rest in peace, or xCloud have much of a chance of surviving scrutiny either. The big day and date, releasing a game, coming to xCloud, coming to Game Pass on the day it's released is a massive, massive, important sell for Xbox. So the email shows Microsoft's strategy and thinking around game content for its Xbox game subscription. Microsoft had previously considered acquiring Sega and Bungie. If I wonder if I click that, will be the... Yeah, that saves me going back. So here we go. In the email here, Phil Spencer wrote to both Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella and Microsoft Chief Financial Officer Amy Hood requesting strategy approval to approach Sega Sammy. So Sega Sammy is the holding company for Sega as we know it, yeah? Over a potential acquisition of Sega's gaming studios. Wow. Imagine that. I mean, for them, this would have the great advantage because the one place Xbox is weak is in the Asia Pacific market. Japan, China, the Southeast Asian market. Sega would give them a shoe in there. We believe that Sega has built a well-balanced portfolio of games across segments and global geographic appeal and will help us accelerate Xbox Game Pass on and off console. Microsoft believed a Sega acquisition would drive Xbox Game Pass subscriptions across PC, console and cloud. And this is what I'm saying about the Asian market. The global appeal of Sega's beloved IP, Sonic, will help expand Xbox Game Pass reach to new audiences around the world, most notably in Asia, where localized content is critical to success. It's not clear what happened with the Sega acquisition and whether Nadella ultimately approved the talks. But in an internal April 2021 merger review document, Sega was still listed as key target. Other key targets were Sega, Bungie, Zynga from a mobile gaming perspective, IO Interactive, that of Hitman, and now, of course, they've got the James Bond franchise they're working on, were part of a number of companies. Bungie, of course, is now a Sony-owned studio, was on the list, with Microsoft's internal documents stating that the acquisition of Bungie will include securing valuable IP, Destiny and its community, and integration of its development and live ops infrastructure into Xbox game studios. Microsoft had identified a high burn rate risk for Bungie. It noted that Destiny was one of the highest hours generating titles on console Game Pass. And then, as I say here, Zynga, of course, was eventually acquired by Take-Two for their sort of move into mobile gaming. And the other one was Hitman, along with mobile companies like Thunderful, Supergiant Games, Niantic, Playrix, and, as I said, Zynga. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Some major kind of interesting acquisitions. So clearly they were positioning themselves, just as Google and Amazon were looking to sort of come into the market. They were looking at what are our strengths, and it's games and more games. They already had a march on Sony in terms of subscription models. Yeah, the subscription model. And they just needed to double down and get some studios and content, especially with, Google planning to spend millions in their kind of Stadia entertainment, games and entertainment studio, and develop AAA games, which were at least 3 to 4, if not 5 years away. Xbox knew they had to get in there quick and really sort of strive forward and get away from potential competition, kill competition dead at the time. That was their view, and really take it to Sony, who of course, were the dominant and still are the dominant gaming brand in console gaming. So there we go. But talking of that, headline. So the FTC Microsoft case has revealed a few things. So as you can see here, Xbox chief Phil Spencer discusses Microsoft losing the console wars because of Sony's aggressive competition. What he's referring to here is Sony has shown, according to Microsoft and according to Phil Spencer in particular, Sony had taken a very aggressive approach to exclusivity, to actually buying a game so they won't release it on Xbox. Yeah. Sony's exclusivity approach is much more aggressive than Xbox's. And I guess actually we have a bit of a history about that, because when Xbox had Minecraft, they were all about getting it on as many platforms as possible. And Sony are a bit like, that's a Microsoft game. I'm not sure about that sort of thing. But eventually they came round, they saw sense. But yeah, Sony do have a history of really concentrating on the exclusivity. Now, Xbox do as well. But what Xbox are claiming here is that Sony is super aggressive about it in order to maintain their dominant position and sort of put Xbox in its place. And we'll come on to that. And it's one of the things that drove them to buy Activision, Blizzard. To buy Bethesda. When they heard that, my brain's gone dead. Starfield was Sony, in their aggressive nature, were planning to make Starfield exclusive to PlayStation. So Xbox just bought the company. That's one way. That's one way to stop that from happening. Fair enough. I like it. Let's do that again. I like it when it just whooshes in. I'm going to go through a lot of these headlines. So I want to know your thoughts on all of that. So put it in the chat. Yeah. As we mentioned there, Microsoft considered buying Zynga as their sort of push into the mobile game field. Now, of course, with Activision Blizzard king. So they've got the mobile, king of the biggest mobile game kind of operator publisher. And fearing Starfield becoming PlayStation exclusive, that's why they bought Bethesda, which is what I just said. So there we go. That was another sort of revelation from Phil Spencer. I've got to do it properly, haven't I? I could come in like that. Boing, boing, boing. The other thing is the lawyer for the FTC really pushed Phil Spencer to make a promise that they won't pull Call of Duty from PlayStation. So they've already, made promises. They offered a 10-year contract to Sony, who Sony refused, of course. They've offered a contract to, NVIDIA GeForce Now, to Boosteroid, for Call of Duty in particular to Switch. But the lawyer, the FTC lawyer, made Phil Spencer, in a court of law, promise. Now, I don't know how much that holds water in terms of a moving market and contracts, but made him in a court of law promise not to pull Call of Duty from PlayStation. Not only that, the lawyer, cheeky beggar, tried to get Phil Spencer to guarantee that they wouldn't pull Diablo. Diablo, Clive, it's not Diablo, it's Diablo. Diablo, right? From Sony. And the judge shut the FTC lawyer down. He said, you can't get him to make promises like that. We're not talking about Diablo. You can't get him to guarantee that. That's not what this is about. You're overstretching your mark. Objection. Yeah? And the judge shut down the FTC lawyer trying to be a bit cheeky and get Phil Spencer to promise they won't take, Diablo away. Yoshida's in the house. Good to see you. Arigato gozaimasu. I've got a bit of fun insight later from a Japanese gamer talking about Death Stranding, which is a bit kind of, which we'll come to later, actually, the meaning behind Death Stranding, or the kind of another layer to it, which is really, really good. It wasn't the lawyer, the judge did, and he didn't bat an eyelid. FTC did nothing, lol. Or is it the judge? Well, we'll come to that. But anyway, thought it was the lawyer pushing him. Oh, look, here we are. See, look, it says here, the judge, this is in relation to that, if that's what you're referring to, Real. The judge, Jacqueline Scott Corley, cuts off FTC's questioning of Phil Spencer. Let me just find the bit about it. Yeah. Judge's interruption. Yeah, I've got it here in my notes. You'll see, I'll quickly show you my notes. In my notes here, judge's interruption. The judge, Jacqueline Scott Corley, cut off the FTC's questioning of Phil Spencer. She intervened when the FTC was asking if Spencer could legally bind Microsoft into keeping Diablo on PlayStation. Later, she directly cut off FTC's questioning of Spencer after the regulator's lawyer asked if Spencer could make a Call of Duty commitment for bringing the game to a PlayStation cloud service. She sort of said, you're overstretching the mark, basically. Anyway, them my notes. So, also a witness, Stadia fans rejoice. Yeah. Stadia fans rejoice old Dov Zimring, one of the product leads of Stadia. We all remember Dov. Those of us that used to watch the Stadia Monday Night Chat, those of us that used to present the Stadia Monday Night Chat, the #1 Stadia chat, live chat show on a Monday night. He was questioned and he shared insights on Google's challenging with AAA games and explained why they shuttered Stadia Games and Entertainment. Because, as we've said, the former Google Stadia product lead, Dov Zimring, testified that Google was willing back in the day. Oh, remember, this is going to be a heartbreak. Those of us Stadia fans. He testified that Google was willing to spend 5 years building AAA games for Stadia. Yeah? Stadia Games and Entertainment had a minimum of 5-year plan to deliver AAA games before it was shuttered within, what was it, a year? Less? Can't remember now. It was February 21. Yeah, so just over a year. They were willing to spend 5 years building AAA games for Stadia, but shut down the company's internal game studio, so that's Stadia Games and Entertainment, because a 5-year game development cycle had become pricier than projected. Yeah? So their initial projections on how much it would cost to run the studio, build AAA games and the stuff like that, and that was partly driven, I think, by the announcement or, yeah, the belief that Xbox or Microsoft were going to buy, Activision Blizzard and stuff like that, and bought Bethesda for, $2 billion at the time or whatever it was they bought. And it suddenly, I think it probably added massive inflation into the industry and demonstrated that actually these AAA games are going to be a bit more expensive than perhaps we'd first considered. And that's where the Google senior management obviously clearly got cold feet and nipped it in the bud. What could have been there was an interesting moment in the case as well, where Phil Spencer had to educate the FTC on what an acquisition is, and that it was just merely an asset transfer. So basically an analogy that Phil Spencer used, they're saying, is it really worth spending $70 billion? Yeah, that's what the FTC was saying to him. Like, why would you want to spend $70 billion? Like, as though you're buying a lollipop for $70 billion and you're licking it and it's gone. Right? And Phil Spencer had to explain to him, he goes, it's just a movement of cash. That we've got 70 billion cash sitting here and we're moving it into an asset. So we're changing our 70 billion cash into a 70 billion asset. We're not just opening the window and throwing $70 billion out. That's not how it works. Yeah, an acquisition is a movement of cash to an asset in the same way you might have, if you're lucky, £500,000 and then you buy a house. You haven't lost £500,000. You've gained an asset. And obviously you hope that asset retains its value or ideally increases in value and brings value back to the company. But it's interesting that he had to explain the basic principles of merger and acquisitions to the FTC lawyer whose sole job is to look at the competition of markets in terms of mergers and acquisitions. Yeah? Learn the basics. Phil Spencer provided clarification on the financial aspect of acquisitions. When an FTC lawyer asked about a $70 billion upfront payment to Activision, Spencer just explained that an acquisition is not an upfront payment, but a transfer of cash into an asset. And then he used the house analogy. Interesting stuff, I thought. I hope you're enjoying this. I'm getting, into some of the meat and potatoes of it. It fascinates me, and there's still 3 days to go, I think. We've still got Satya Nadella to come and stuff like that. So still lots of interesting stuff. As I said, they had a day off today. One of the interesting things about it, and probably one of the things that drove Microsoft to acquire Activision Blizzard, and an example of Sony's aggressive sort of behavior, is that Sarah Bond revealed that the normal revenue split for Xbox games is 70-30, yeah, standard. I work in an industry and, we have revenue splits, standard, yeah? Terms of trade, standard. We don't waver from it, yeah? It's standard. It is what it is. It's industry agreed. That's what you're getting. Yeah, that's the split, whatever it is, all right? So Microsoft have a standard split. And when I worked back in when I were a lad and I worked in the gaming industry, it was roughly this. I remember having to do the Xbox and the PlayStation, deals. And it was the same, I think, roughly the same, 70-30. I seem to remember something like that. But Activision Blizzard, when it came to Call of Duty, went, nah, mate, we want a better deal. And Xbox would go, no, but it's 70-30. Why? And they went, see PlayStation over there? They're giving us an 80-20. Yeah? They're giving us an 80-20. It would be a shame, wouldn't it? It'd be a shame if Call of Duty, one of the biggest games around, didn't end up on Xbox, wouldn't it? Because you wouldn't pay what the other people are paying. PlayStation probably knew full well by paying it, PlayStation, because they know Call of Duty sells gallon loads, like gazillions, were quite happy probably playing 80-20, especially because they knew it would put Xbox in a difficult position. And PlayStation had the marketing rights, which prevented Xbox from making statements about Call of Duty in certain marketing and PR. That is the nature of having the marketing rights. In the end, Call of Duty is so important as a game to any console, but to Xbox as well. They had to concede. They had no choice. And they conceded in agreeing an 80-20 split. The actual revenue amount wasn't actually revealed. They just said it wasn't 70-30. But I think the lawyer or the judge kind of went, oh, so it was 80. Little bit of a faux pas, let it reveal. And everybody knew instantly what it was agreed. But basically Sony put them in that position because Sony agreed 80-20 split with Activision Blizzard for Call of Duty, and reluctantly, Xbox had no choice. Activision Blizzard had the power, and Activision Blizzard were very aggressive. You can sort of see why actually Xbox wanted to buy them, just like to put that kind of stuff to bed. Now, talking about guarantees of Call of Duty, Sarah Bond of Microsoft, VP of Marketing, Microsoft, acknowledged that they offered Call of Duty, and we talked about it briefly on this show before, they offered Call of Duty to Steam. Like a guarantee, Call of Duty will come to the Steam library. And Valve went, that's all right, mate. We believe you. We don't need a contract. We believe that if a game is good enough, we believe if our service is good enough, people will want to put out their games on our service. Simple as that. That's our philosophy. Yeah? We create the service that publishers and developers want to put their games on us. And if they don't, then we're not doing a good job. Very powerful kind of mandate, remit, very, very powerful raison d'etre. So powerful that they declined the offer because they were absolutely, and rightly so, absolutely sure they don't need a contract with Microsoft to guarantee Call of Duty to come to Steam because they know it just will. Charlie Birrell, yo! Good to see you, Charlie, in the house. That was interesting. And then we talked about how Activision pushed Microsoft into a corner on the share. And that the power of Activision in influencing the share deals that we talked about and the marketing rights that we talked about. They also briefly touched upon, or rather Peter Hines from Bethesda talked about the judge asked him in the light of Redfall, what is considered a AAA game? And it was just sort of quite interesting in relation to Redfall, which is considered a AAA game. And Peter Hines sort of said, well, it's a bit subjective. It's a little bit subjective. I mean, there's no definitive description. It's not like you must spend 50 million plus, and if you spend 49,999,000, it's not a AAA. It is sort of subjective, but it was interesting in the light of the way that Redfall has kind of been received. So we touched on the aggressive nature of exclusivities, but it is important. Exclusives are clearly important in the games industry. There's no denying that, I don't think. And the FTC, however, which is ironic, considering Sony is so aggressive when it comes to exclusivity, and Sony is on the side of the FTC, and yet here's the FTC, who do nothing about Sony, saying that they see exclusives, even though Sony basically pay people to keep their game off Xbox. Yeah. The FTC sees it as anti-competitive, that exclusives are anti-competitive. However, Bethesda argued it streamlines development, and their example is Starfield. They were saying that if they had to bring Starfield to multiple platforms, i.e. Sony, PlayStation, then Starfield wouldn't be available in September. They'd have to push the date back further. And it's a bit like, that sort of the argument about upgrades on Android and upgrades on Apple. The iOS system, you've got one phone to test it on. Yeah? It's one phone. Yeah? We're rolling out an upgrade to iOS. So you're doing it on one phone, effectively, one model of phone. Might be variants of that model, but you're doing it on one model of phone. Easy. When Android have to do an update, they got to test it on, we've got to test it on the Samsung phone, haven't we? We've got to test it on the, Motorola phone. Oh man, we've got to test it on the, whatever phone. They've got to test it on multiple things. And that's the thing, delivering it. And that's one of the, arguments that Epic said about not wanting to bring their game, is one of the arguments about not wanting to bring Fortnite to Stadia. It's another platform they have to service, and they're already servicing 7 different platforms. Now, of course, with Amazon, I think it's 8. And they were saying, it's just not worth our while. We're servicing 7 platforms. So, yeah, what Bethesda is saying is that actually, and if anything, Sony PlayStation, ironically, is, you could argue is testament to this. The reason that Sony, that PlayStation exclusives are considered so good, and you could put Nintendo in this field as well, is that they are developing the game, whether it's, Horizon or Spider-Man or whatever it is. They're developing that game for one platform. They're concentrating all their effort on that one platform. PC aside, they're focusing on what that platform can do and getting the best of that platform. They don't have to compromise on another platform, squeezing it into Nintendo Switch, or, making it work on different things or changing the code. They can maximize the code specifically to get the best out of, PlayStation 5 or whatever, to give the best version of, Spider-Man or whatever it is. Yeah. So PlayStation sort of demonstrate that example. And here we've got, Bethesda saying that actually exclusivities help streamline development, because then you don't have to worry about, we've got to port the game. You just concentrate on the game and there's no worrying about porting the game. I mean, you look at Cyberpunk, the problems that they had to deliver it on old generation platforms, and it was a nightmare. They've got a state-of-the-art game, and then they've got to port it onto Xbox One and PlayStation 4, and they had a nightmare, and people had a horrible experience. It was also revealed, well, that didn't fit in. It was also revealed that the next Indiana Jones game will be made an Xbox exclusive after the acquisition. Talking of exclusives. So there we go. Indiana Jones exclusive to Xbox. Do you like my little tickers when I get them right? What's happened to that one? Ooh. Right, what was the first one? Oh, yes. Oh, we'll come to that. We'll come to the cloud gaming. Interesting here that Xbox see Xbox Game Pass as a bit of a discovery platform. And Sarah Bond revealed that 60% of human fall flat players had never played puzzle games before. Do you use Xbox Game Pass as a sort of experiment to try things perhaps you wouldn't try? I mean, I know I certainly do. If I think, I'm curious about that, I'll give it a go. Certainly before Xbox Game Pass with, Xbox Gold Live, when they used to sort of give away, games every so often, I think, I'm curious about that. I'll give it a go. And of course, with Stadia Pro, I played games on Stadia Pro I'd never have sort of chosen to play had they not been part of Stadia Pro, and found some really delightful, interesting games. Really beautiful games that, perhaps in this kind of world of saturated marketing, you would have missed. So do you use Xbox Game Pass as a sort of a trial? I mean, also, the other thing I do is I try before I sort of not buy, but, download. It's certainly xCloud. I give a game a go. And then if I think, actually, I want to spend some quality time with this game, then I might download it onto the Xbox. Let me know what you think. And also, we've got 21 people in the house. Whoop, whoop. Do me a favor, hit the likes. So the big issue, one of the big issues within this whole court case, and it's also something with the UK Competition Markets Authority's view, is that they see cloud gaming as completely separate market, a standalone market. Yeah, you've got your console gaming, you got your mobile gaming, you got your PC gaming, and then you've got your cloud gaming, and it's a completely separate market. And their concern is, you know, certainly the UK CMA's concern is that Microsoft would have a massive advantage in this separate market. Now, Microsoft is saying, no, they don't. They just see it as a feature. It's not a separate market. Cloud gaming to them is not a separate market. However, that wasn't always the case. It's interesting how Xbox have moved their positioning in terms of xCloud, and whether it's merely a nice add-on, a nice to have to Xbox Game Pass, a bonus if you like, or it's actually a separate dedicated thing. Because there are many people, including myself, who could sort of see a time when people do without consoles. You know, we'd live in a world where the norm is to stream it via the cloud. In the same way the norm is with music. Yes, you have people who collect vinyl. I get that. Good for you. You know, my daughter buys vinyl. You know, it's a thing. Fine. But the most people listen to their music streamed. Most people nowadays, I mean, I shouldn't say it in case my employers are watching. Although, I know the central focus of my business now is streaming content, iPlayer. It's the focus. But I don't actually watch TV. Partly my aerial fell off the roof. And then I just cut it off. It was hanging. Aerial blew off the roof. And then it was hanging and banging against my daughter's window like a kind of Edgar Allan Poe kind of thing, scratching at the window at night. As aerial, just as the wind would blow, it would tap, tap, tap. So I just leant out the window with a pair of scissors and cut the aerial off. So we have no TV, but I don't need it. Most of the stuff I watch is on YouTube, or I watch Netflix, or I watch Disney, or I stream iPlayer, Amazon. Very few. Most of the stuff that's live, I can stream it live. Sometimes sport's a bit of a pain in the butt. ITV, for instance, when they have live sport, you can stream it live to your phone, but you can't stream it on the smart app because they don't have the rights. They have the rights to stream to phones, but not the right to stream to their TV app. Very old-fashioned. Anyway. Ariel Nevermore, exactly. Eleanor. Was it Eleanor Nevermore? Ariel, you're muddling up your mermaids with your Edgar Allan Poe. That's a weird mashup, Jerome. However, cloud gaming, yes. So Xbox say that they don't consider cloud gaming as a separate market. However, it was not the way. In September 22, which wasn't that long ago, 7 months ago, I wonder what changed their mind. Well, maybe Stadia shutting down. Yeah, because Stadia announced they were shutting down in October. And so, you know, on the basis that they weren't really getting the numbers or weren't convincing people that cloud gaming was, you know, in enough numbers was a thing, maybe at the same time, Microsoft were thinking, yeah, I mean, we have a lot of Game Pass subscribers, but as a percentage of people who play, of those subscribers who play xCloud, is probably smaller than we expected. Because in September 22, so a month before Stadia announced they were closing down, Sarah Bond, head of Xbox Creator Experience, had stated that Xbox was very keen on developing a separate version of xCloud. So the idea is they were very focused on having a standalone app. Yeah, at the moment, the app is sort of wrapped up in Xbox Game Pass. Yeah. But the idea, I think, that they were planning is to have a standalone xCloud app. And you just, I assume what they were planning is you just pay a cloud subscription fee. So they have another tier of Game Pass. So not Game Pass Ultimate. I mean, you've got Game Pass PC, which is like $7.99. You've got Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, which is about $14.99. Yeah. Maybe another xCloud Game Pass, let's say $7.99. It would be a standalone app. So you didn't need to buy a console. I mean, you don't have to buy a console to have it, but the reason you'd have Xbox Game Pass, realistically, maybe apart from the PC version, is because you've got a console. But it seems that they were looking at developing a standalone separate xCloud app, which would be a separate business. Yeah, making xCloud a separate market. So something that would compete directly with Stadia, something that would compete directly with Amazon Luna, something that would compete directly with GeForce Now. Yeah, a standalone application. At the moment, it sits within Game Pass, but they were looking at having a standalone app that would directly compete with all those platforms I just mentioned. However, that was in September 2022, and interestingly, Google announced in October 22 they were shutting down Stadia. Maybe this had an influence on Microsoft changing its strategy. And Bond mentioned, this is the thing, what I'm saying here, I don't think it was a coincidence that Stadia decided to shut down because the subscriber numbers were not at the level to be able to sustain it, because Microsoft changed its strategy about having a standalone xCloud operation, because Bond mentioned that the operational costs were higher and that the company made deals with partners that offer similar cloud gaming services. So basically, we've talked about this, is that by entering into a deal with Nvidia for Xbox PC games and Boostroid, they kind of undermined or certainly kiboshed the idea of xCloud being this dominant thing. It is now absolutely relegated to an add-on. Yeah? xCloud now is firmly just an add-on. Any aspirations it might have had or they may have had of making it this powerful standalone cloud gaming experience is totally undermined anyway by the fact that they've done a deal with Boostroid for Xbox PC games. They've done a deal with GeForce Now for Xbox PC games. So you can see that their strategy has changed. Microsoft had promised that Xbox Cloud Gaming would support existing game libraries by the end of 2022, but this did not happen. Interesting. Anyway, I thought that was particularly interesting. But they do have ambitions. However, having said that, at the same time, they do have ambitions of reaching billions through iOS and Android with Xbox Mobile Store. So, as I think I mentioned on Thursday, the fact that Activision, Blizzard, King, the King side, gives them a massive mobile gaming library, which they can now call Xbox Mobile or whatever they want to call it, and they could perhaps add in xCloud to that, which seems to be their strategy. So there you go. Those are the big, juicy headlines from the FTC case, just over like 2 days. We've got another 3 days of this stuff to go. In a way, I'm glad they had a rest today, because otherwise this show would be 2 hours long. Oh, my Lord. Anyway, but let me know on your thoughts on some of that juicy stuff. I've not forgotten the really big news, the really important things, ladies and gentlemen, are things that are really important to you. Yeah, breaking news. And don't let it be said that I don't bring you the big stuff, ladies and gentlemen. Breaking news. The Xbox that you all want. Yes. Barbie the movie teamed up with Xbox for a beautiful Xbox stand. Look, it's even got Forza Horizon 5 printed at the bottom there in a beautiful Barbie pink with interchangeable. Of course, you want to be able to interchange those, the covers. That's what it's all about, isn't it? Having interchangeable covers, like Barbie changing clothes. Interchangeable covers for your controller there. The whole kit and caboodle, yeah? The whole kit and caboodle. Got the fridge. I tell you what, my son's Xbox fridge gets good use. He's always stuffing it full of Pepsi Max. There you are, ladies and gentlemen. Just to lighten the load there, you see Barbie, the movie, beautiful pink Xbox. Slightly more serious note. Some DLC coming out for Atomic Heart. I stopped playing Atomic Heart. I must have been distracted by something else. But I know a lot of people had fun playing Atomic Heart. I need to catch up on Dead Island 2 as well. Anyway, so this brand new DLC coming out August the 2nd. Annihilation Instinct coming out. I never thought, because it's story based, I wasn't expecting them to do any DLC for Atomic Heart. But there you go, ladies and gentlemen. There you go. There's interesting stuff here on Xbox Studios player numbers. So these are the numbers that are playing. Just move Jerome's various games. So Grounded is being played by 15 plus million. These are big numbers. These are big numbers, aren't they? I don't know over what period of time this is. Wow. One of these numbers have really surprised me. Grounded is being played by 50, or has been played by 15 plus million people. Flight Simulator, 12 plus million. State of Decay 2, 11 plus million. Forza Horizon 5, 30 million. You've got to have a lot of servers, haven't you? Minecraft Dungeons, which is a fairly new game, 15 plus million. I guess a lot of these, if they're Game Pass... I haven't played Minecraft Legends yet. No, Minecraft Dungeons. Okay, not Legends. Minecraft Dungeons. Yeah, if you're Game Pass... They've got like 20 plus million Game Pass subscribers. And games like that, I guess, going to appeal. 30 plus million for Sea of Thieves. I wish I still played Sea of Thieves, but I feel like I'm so behind the curve on it now. I used to love it so much crewing up, but you need a lot of time. Like if I went on a big mission, what are they? Oh God, my brain keeps going dead. Anyway, a special one that only Pirate Legends could get. A treasure hunt that only Pirate Legends could get. I used to say to my son, do you want to go in that? And if you do it properly, it's going to take you a few hours or a good good chunk of people. I've got to go now. My mum's calling me for tea now. I've got to go now. I've got to take the kid out. I've got to go, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I just want to sail the seas and concentrate and sail my boat with my crew. Anyway, Fallout 76, 14 plus, Elder Scrolls 22 plus million, and Halo Infinite. Bear in mind, this is the big game. I guess it must have been people who've played it over time. Because Sea of Thieves was the first big title. Forza Horizon came out a little bit, 5 came out a little bit before Halo Infinite. But yeah, interesting. I just thought they were interesting numbers. You can't quite see all of them, can you? Can't quite see all of them. All right, Jay, how you doing? Good to see you, sir. Xbox play anywhere in bed, on the toilet, on a plane, even at the bottom of the sea. Oop. Or was that a PlayStation? I understand a poor kid died. He had a Rubik's Cube. He was going to try to break the world record for solving a Rubik's Cube under the sea. Tragic story. Tragic. Right. One thing I did want to share with you. Oh, before we get to that, let me know what you think about this. You got to pay for that 70. You got to fill up the cash reserves. Now you're moving $70 billion cash into an asset, as we discussed. It's not an upfront payment. It's a cash to asset transfer. You've got to fill up your cash coffers again, though. Microsoft is hiking the price of Xbox Series X and Xbox Game Pass. Now, in fairness, remember PlayStation did announce an increase on PlayStation 5. So Xbox have done quite well, given the supply issues around the world, to keep the price where it is. Xbox Series X pricing will remain the same in the US and match PlayStation 5 pricing in most other markets. Xbox game prices are going up in most markets. Microsoft is increasing Xbox Series X prices in most countries in August, apart from US, Japan, Chile, Brazil, and Colombia. What about UK? Xbox Maker is also increasing the monthly price of its Xbox Game Pass and Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription, which will see the Game Pass subscription for console. This is console alone. What about Ultimate? $10.99 from $9.99, an extra $1, ladies and gentlemen. We've held on to our prices for consoles, which they have, fair enough, for many years, and have adjusted the price to reflect the competitive conditions in each market. Xbox Series X is moving to $479.99 in the UK, 550 euros, 650 Canadian dollars, and 800 Australian dollars. The Xbox Series X pricing will not be adjusted in any markets, remaining at a bargain, ladies and gentlemen, $300. But of course, you've got that new one, the terabyte one, Xbox Series S terabyte one, which is about $350, wasn't it? Can't remember. Right. One thing I wanted to share with you, ladies and gentlemen, was this. Now, this is in Japanese, but it has subtitles, and it's about Death Stranding. This is the sort of and finally bit, ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to share with you, but I found it quite fascinating for those that are into or appreciate Death Stranding. I will play it. So this is talking to about Death Stranding in Japan to the main man there. So the game's centered around deliveries, and the first we sing is a ladder. Yes, of course. Straight out Donkey Kong. And I just thought, yes, it is. It's Donkey Kong. Then we ride a bike like a racing game. And he says like the Japanese game Hang On.
でクリフとの対戦の時は
Yes!
システムもある。であとボスとの対戦の時はシューティングゲームとしての
More shooting games,
立体的になる
perspective changes, top-down view. So yeah, there we go.
であとヒッグスの対戦の時に
And then a fight with Higgs at the end in a beatdown.
対戦バーが出て
Fighting game with health bars appear on the screen like a fighting game.
でそのゲーム史を総ざらいしてる
It's like you were covering every high point of video game history.
やっぱりそう
And
で
he
す
says that's exactly
ゲ
right.
ームを作ろう気持ちなのかそれともなんていうか自分の
You've discovered the
原
secret
点に戻るなのか
of Death Stranding. And then he goes on to explain there, Kojima goes on to explain that basically it's like revisiting the history of games in an open world format. That's the hidden the hidden meaning or kind of underlying layer of Death Stranding. And I've never thought of it like that. I just thought that was kind of interesting. But let me know what you think. Whether you just think that's one of those over-interpretations or an after-the-thought interpretation by Kojima, or there is that...
Is Death Stranding the game with the neighborhood song in it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
yellow ball.
Well, you climb a ladder like you do in Donkey Kong. That's what this Japanese guy was saying. It's like
I
Donkey
just keep
Kong.
listening to that song and I remember it.
Sorry, the show was interrupted there because
By relevant information.
the neighbourhood have a track in Death Stranding, and one in my household is a fan of the neighbourhood.
Oh yeah.
Hell yeah. Right, let's see what you lot have been chatting about, ladies and gentlemen, before we go. Is it true? So I think Sega's off the... Well, potentially. Well, if the Activision Blizzard deal falls through, who knows what's on the cards? But then maybe it's a bit like buying soccer players. I'm just saying soccer because I know we have an American audience, but, you know, football players, their value will shoot up if they know a club is desperate for a certain player. Then that club will have to start paying over the odds for players that, if it wasn't desperate for it, already got the player it had targeted. So if a soccer, you know, if a football team targets a player and it gets that player, great. And if it doesn't, then other players in that position know, all right, okay, you're desperate now to fill that position. Suddenly my price has gone up. Maybe it would be the same with Sega. So if the deal did fall through, who knows? It could indeed be next but I reckon it would only be if the deal fell through. I don't know, but this is my theory. Yeah, everybody hit the likes. I only stream what I watch, exactly. Well, there we go, ladies and gentlemen. A bit of a crazy run through, yeah, of the highlights. I just thought I'd share some of the juicy bits, like a court reporter. Here I am. I'm just reporting from the court, and the judge said... That's why Japanese are great. Japanese games are great. You're a little bit biased there, I reckon, Ishida. No, but they are. They have a great history of gaming. And Kojima is an auteur, as I would say in cinema. Is he not? He's an auteur. But very interesting. But there we go, ladies and gentlemen. That is the Xbox Monday Night Chat. That is all the juicy gossip, revelations, reveals from the FTC Microsoft case. And why does it matter? Well, it matters because this is going to have massive implications on the gaming industry if this deal goes through. Not just for Xbox fans, but just in general. We've already seen, actually, if you think about it, the benefits of the deal, even when it's not gone through. You know, as a avid fan and a ambassador, of course, of GeForce Now, great news that Xbox, you know, PC games and Xbox Game Pass for PC is coming to GeForce Now and Boost Droid and things like that. That would not happen if this deal had not happened. And when this deal happens, Call of Duty in that light will be on, not only on Xbox Game Pass, will also be on GeForce Now and things like that. So there we go. We get play from our own library in 2023 or 2024. Exactly that. It's interesting. I think that would have been the... I know. I think that still fits in with the added on strategy. Yeah. Of xCloud being an add-on. Yes. You can play... you've got a console, but now you can take your games with you. But ideally, that's what you want to be able to do, isn't it? Play the games you've already bought and that aren't on the subscription model. Absolutely. I think it still may well come. Exactly like the UK music industry. Exactly. 20, 30, 40, 50 years of building up an industry, and the same with the game industry in Japan. Yeah, when is Lord Kensal making a stream? He will. He's very, very busy at the moment, making videos and doing other stuff, helping me out. But we will have a stream soon, I promise. We are meant to be doing more streams, a few GeForce Now streams and stuff like that. So watch this space. That's all I say. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to have a wonderful, wonderful evening, day, whatever, wherever you are. Have a wonderful, wonderful time. Why don't you join me on Thursday for the GeForce Now Thursday chat? If not, I'll see you the same place, same time next week. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. Thank you so much for joining me live. You make the show, ladies and gentlemen. Otherwise, I'd just be a madman shouting into a microphone. Well, I am that anyway. Anyway, arigatou gozaimasu. Johnny!